Good evening and welcome to a sunny Donington Park for the second round of the Simsport Racing GT4 Season 5. My name is Tim Fullbrook and I'm joined in the commentary box by Steve Proudley. Looking forward to this one, Steve. We're joining a little bit rushed because of some technical issues, so if you're watching the stream, thank you for holding on just for those last few minutes. But Steve, an exciting event last time out at Oulton Park and more of the same this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Another fantastic British circuit this evening in Donington Park. Absolutely awesome down through corner curves and the old hairpin. I'm sure that's going to throw up a few incidents, events, overtakes, attempts, defences and all sorts this evening. But I'll let you run through round one at Oulton Park before we get any further, Tim.
For sure. So Matt Richards finished top of the pile last time out, but the Ginetta driver only benefited from a mistake from Rocket Esports' Michael O'Brien, who then went on to finish second. Luka Berk, our reigning Season 4 champion, was third with Benjamin Tusting, an impressive fourth considering it was his first race in the series. But as always with GT4s in Simsport Racing, it's a reverse grid, so the top 15 are flipped. And that really throws an extra load of spice into the mix, because if you're Matt Richards, you've got to fight back through. Yes, you might have had the pace to win last time out, as you can see, top of the standings with a nice healthy 110 points. Michael O'Brien, Luka Berk, Benjamin Tusting, Aidan Brough with a strong finish in fifth ahead of Yannick Muller in sixth place. But as we're lining up to go green, the team standings, Butler Powell Motorsport leading the way. They've obviously got two teams here this season, one team in the Ginettas, one team in the BMWs. Zansho Simsport in second ahead of Mob 7. With HF Impala, my old team, Steve, down the bottom of the order with 0 points. I hate to say that it's because I'm no longer driving, but fingers crossed that Angus Martin and Michael Hafton can bring home some points in only their second race in the Aston Martin Vantage. But as the grid heads round to start this second event of the GT4 Season 5, it will be Ollie Geel of Dunn Motorsport that leads the way after finishing 15th last time out, alongside Marquez with Luke Rogers, who crossed the line backwards at Oulton Park. Matzik, Aaron Martin Pilkington will start 5th with Weiss alongside Andrews, Mitchell, Jenson, Button in the Alpine, taken out by a back marker last time. He'll be looking forward to scoring some points this time, with Yannick Muller rounding out the top 10, and of course Matt Richards in 15th place. So as they come across the starting line to begin round two here at Donington Park, they get underway, green flag, and Geel looks to the inside to defend his position. The Ginetta of Rogers is looking to make it 3 wide on the run into turn 1. Fact, a fantastic start from Marquez, who goes all the way round the outside. Matzik runs wide on the exit of Redgate. He's on the grass. He's going to have to buy a ticket to get back into this absolute train of cars. It looks like he's been hit again out wide into the barrier. Aaron Martin Pilkington of the Tron Racing BMW team files into third place behind Geel, but in front Marquez looks to be making a dash for it behind Rogers and Weiss, trying to settle the dispute for fourth place as they head up under Starkey's Bridge and towards McLean. And now Martin Pilkington looking to the outside very convincingly of Ollie Geel and gets the move done. A fantastic start from him in the 626 BMW. Daniel Andrews here in the 29 Ginetta heading up the hill towards Coppice. As a look up the inside, that's Luka Berk already making up positions. He said last time at Oulton Park he was struggling with the 50 kilos of ballast now applied to the Caymans, but alongside him Michael O'Brien and Benjamin Tusting look like he's getting involved in the action as they head through to the S's for the first time. 3 wide, Berk manages to escape through the middle. The McLaren and the Maserati behind seem to sort out the order. That's Stin Paspont, who's made a brilliant start up to 14th. But Steve, as they manage to spiral down into single file, well not yet, still side by side round the old hairpin, a nice, a thrilling start as always to these races in GT4.
Yeah, absolutely, and fantastically narrated by you there, Tim. Absolutely awesome job for the first lap. Well done. But Pilkington, what a start from that man in the BMW. He isn't hanging around, is he? He's making headway very quickly, and it's looking like he's trying to chase that Marquez. Well, it's not Marquez, I don't think, that's in the lead, is it? That's the timing tower just needs to update, I think. But yeah, they're certainly battling hard behind 2 and 3 wide in places. But it's looking like they're getting a little bit feisty as we're going to come down the corner curves now with Ginetta BMW 2 wide there. That's Geel and the number 18, I think, just looking a little bit feisty as they come down through the old hairpin, managing to get back into single file, and there's no harm there, just all filing back in and as they were really. But yeah, absolutely fantastic opening laps and some heated exchanges. It looks like Button's just trying and sling that Renault up the inside. He does that quite convincingly there, and he pulls one of the Ginettas through with him.
Jenson Button driving the Alpine A110 GT4 this season, and he seemed to adapt to the car very well last time out at Oulton Park. Had it not been for a mistake through a back marker, he was set for a 5th place finish. But as we can see, as Button climbs up the field, Luka Berk is in tow. These guys have battled it out across series here at Simsport, as we see the 64 McLaren of Benjamin Tusting also keeping in tow, and there's the 44 of Matt Richards. So that the guys who were the top of the order last time out are wasting no time in climbing up the field, despite starting outside the top 10. Ollie Gill, our pole sitter, being pushed out wide through the old hairpin. Benjamin Tusting here, the 64 McLaren, now with Luka Berk in front and his Matt Richards behind. So really interesting to see that these guys have found themselves up the order, but already starting to battle it out between them.
Yeah, Ollie Gill is the real loser on the start. I mean, he's down to 11th place now from pole position, and only a couple of laps completed, so on to the 3rd lap, and he's down to 11th. Really unlucky there. He's just going to cut to a replay and watch this fantastic start again.
So going into the first corner here, you can see Marquez swooping around the outside, and this is Johannes Weiss heading off wide, I believe, in the 251. So he's going to lose some time there, and actually just got shunted out again as he tried to rejoin the track. That's just a tricky situation there, isn't it, Steve? Sorry, that was Philip Matzik. It's really tricky, those kind of situations, considering how close the pack is, as we see Benjamin Tusting looking up the inside of our Season 4 champion Luka Berk through McLean's and on the run up the hill towards Coppice. He looks like he's got the job done. Can he hold the line? Yeah, he parks it on the apex a little bit, almost a touring car move. And speaking of touring car move, Luka Berk gives him a tap on the right rear, and that's opened the door for race 1 winner Matt Richards to nearly make it 3 wide. He's going to stick behind the Cayman, almost bump drafting him down the straights as they head into the S's. The Ginetta swoops around the outside, no room to spare, and Tusting goes from attacking for the 7th place, and he's now further down the order. But to return to what I was saying, Steve, it's so difficult at the start when everyone's so close together. Find yourself out wide, you've got to buy a ticket and ask nicely just to get let back in line.
Yeah, 37 cars made the start this evening, so 37 cars line astern, and well, sorry, not even just line astern, 2 wide as they are now, as Luka Berk is 2 wide with I believe that's Richards again, and you know, you just can't rejoin at that point when they're all flat out down Craner curves. You've got to, you've got to try and find that room, but it is very, very difficult. And yeah, no surprise that he got a second piece contact there. But Luka Berk up into 7th place. Luka will be looking to make some headways. Matt Richards gets a little bit sideways there as he tries to get on the power a little bit too savagely, but and lost a little bit of time now and fallen back into into Tusting, so he's having to defend hard, and he's considering attacking Berk, but Berk will want to get his head down. He'll want to move up the order, because Marquez and Pilkington at the moment are pulling away. They're 3.5 seconds clear of the rest of the field at the moment. Button also making good progress. He's up into 4th with Rogers 5th, Bro 6th, so it's still a tight top 6 apart from that bit of a gap up to Pilkington and Marquez out in front, but that is just 3.5 seconds. You can see the gap on the screen there. You can see Button, you can see the 271 BMW just ahead of him, so you know, those guys are chasing hard, and they won't want Pilkington and Marcus to get away. They'll want to get that gap closed down as quick as they can.
Speaking of closing down a gap, that's Michael O'Brien going up the inside of Rene Butler through the S's there. Very clean move from the Rocket Esports driver. He made a mistake last time out whilst leading quite convincingly at Oulton Park, and behind there's a recovering Alex Buncombe, who was handed a few penalties for his instance that he suffered in round 1, so he's climbing up through the order as well. These guys seeming to follow each other through now as they look at the back with the Maserati of Steen Paspont in the 444 Squadra Volante car. This train seemingly starting to form behind Paspont as he's defending from O'Brien behind, but that McLaren, we've seen it for the last 2 seasons, has been very quick in a straight line, and no doubt O'Brien looks to the inside on the way through Redgate. Paspont doing his best to hold on around the outside, but it's almost a battle lost as they head through the Craner curves, and the Maserati files in behind the McLaren as they head through the left and get the car back over to the left hand side for the old hairpin. They throw the car through. Next on O'Brien's list of cars to pass is our pole sitter Ollie Giel in the number 18. Dunn Racing Ginetta is one of the Butler Powell Motorsport. Ginetta's actually was off on the inside there. Not too sure who that was. Looks like Butler's fallen behind as well. As the order stretches out at the front, it's really going to be a question of how far can these guys go. Can they close these gaps? I wouldn't put it past any of them, but Luka Berk already closing up on Aidan Bro. Jenson Button, who's trying to make a dash for it out the front, see if he can build a gap before his real championship challengers decide to sort things out and start trying to catch this breakaway. And just like that, Steve, it's been 8 minutes of this race already, 37 minutes to go, but this order is far from settled.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a typical GT4 race, 45-minute sprints with that top 15 reverse grid to make it just a little bit more interesting, and obviously the balance of performance. So the Porsche's quite heavily bopped with some ballast, so that's hence why likes of Luka Berk may be struggling to pull off the overtakes. The Porsche certainly isn't lacking in speed, but just lost that little bit of an edge maybe on the agility, as we're seeing Tusting there just going through and gaining a position and putting a car in between him and Luka Berk at the moment. Or is that Will Dendy? Sorry, that's Will Dendy, isn't it, just behind?
Yeah, fantastic start from Will Dendy, fighting up through the order. I think he's made up easily 10 positions on where he started on the grid as the drivers seem to file down into line. This is Philip Matzik, the Butler Powell Motorsport driver who we saw off in the gravel on the opening lap. He's challenged by Luke Rogers, who was the Ginetta that we saw going wide. So although they're part of the same team, two very different cars, and I'm pretty sure they'll be happy to battle that one out. And behind Michael Haffenden in 22nd place, disappointed to pick up a puncture in the second half of the race at Oulton Park, which forced him to retire. That saw him finish 31st in the standings. He'd be expecting better this time out. Will Dendy, though, challenged now by Regan Mitchell behind, but he'll be looking forward in an attempt to pass the Ginetta in front of Daniel Andrews, and through the S's he's got a fantastic run out there, and he's looking up the inside into the old hairpin. If he can break late, well, that Ginetta really sends it round the outside. The number 29 doing a fantastic job of challenging through there, but Dendy slams the door shut on the exit, and that's allowing Regan Mitchell to fire one up the outside. A tricky move to get done round the final corner at Goddard's, but he's having to fall back in line. That Ginetta is quick here at Donington Park, as is shown by 3 of the top 10 being Ginettas, but at the moment it's a BMW 1, 2, 3, because Aaron Martin Pilkington has taken the lead. He now heads up the pole Simsport 93 of Marquez, with Weiss in the 271, but the Powell Motorsport car in third. Then it's a minor gap back to Jenson Button of 6/10, Matt Richards in fifth, Luka Berk in sixth, ahead of Aidan Bro, Benjamin Tusting, and this man on your screen at the moment, Will Dendy, who's looking to recover from a tough race at Oulton Park. But with the reverse grid, Steve, you can sometimes find yourself an opportunity to recover, but the sword giveth and taketh away, because sometimes you can find yourself tumbling back down the order.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in the early parts where everyone is literally within a few tenths of each other. The field is starting to spread out a little bit now, so you can focus more on that attack without worrying too much about defence. Interesting to see that Tusting in 8th place is the fastest man on the track at the moment, with a 1:35.1 on the timing sheet. Jenson Button, another quick guy, with a 1:35.5. Interestingly, Pilkington, he's upped his lap times by around about half a second or so since he's hit the front. He's in a 1:35.4, and Marquez, who's in second, he's consistently been doing the 36s. So I expect Pilkington maybe to stretch his legs now, and maybe he's going to try and build a gap that's maybe not going to be bridgeable by the guys chasing. So that's what he'll be looking to do now, Will Pilkington, get his head down. It'll just be interesting to watch that timing as the rest of the guys behind are still battling for positions, tripping up over each other, and just trying to push on at the same time.
Pilkington then hoping to benefit from the fights behind, and one of those drivers really locked in competition at the moment is this man on your screen, Jenson Button, in the number 22 Rocket Esports Alpine. He's got Weiss in front as they come through the old hairpin. You can see the steering wheel on the left hand side jiggling around a bit, which is unusual for Button. We know how characteristically smooth his driving style is, but we know he's loving his time in the GT4s here at Simsport. He was actually really gutted to miss a race last season, came back fighting, and wonders if this season he might be able to challenge for the championship. But Weiss in front through McLean's, getting all kinds of sideways. He's really fighting that BMW M4 at the moment, and on the run down this straight before the S's, I wonder if Button's going to look to the inside. He does. He's able to close up on the brakes and really just trying to disturb the BMW in front, costing both of them a little bit of time to Matt Richards behind, but I'm pretty sure Button will be through shortly, and indeed he goes to the outside at the old hairpin, elects to back off. I wonder if he was going to try an over and under. It looked like he was trying to cut back on the beamer.
Indeed, yeah,
and just unable to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely, and he just, it was just the timing was slightly out. He couldn't get turned in as quickly as he wanted to, but we've got Rogers now looking to throw it up the inside, but not close enough. And again, he's got an Alpine running round the outside of him, which is Gav Utley, a little bit ambitious, but just couldn't quite hold it tight with the Alpine there, and he's maybe just lost a bit of ground and coming under pressure himself from Aaron Walker in the KTM behind him. So we've got probably about half a dozen cars here that we could nearly throw a blanket over. So this battle is going to be one to watch at the moment, and it's still one of those battles where you could 1 minute be attacking one car in front, but before you know it, lose 2 or 3 places. So going to be interesting to watch and see how the guys go. Rogers is up at the sort of mid to front. He's the one looking to put a move on Haffenden at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do. Anything down Craner curves, maybe into the old hairpin. A little bit risky, but those are the sort of moves that do or die, winner takes all.
Rogers started 11th on the grid, so he's fallen back. We did see him going through the grass on the run up through to Starkey's Bridge, but in front, Michael Haffenden and Rene Butler battling out for 17th position. These guys came to blows last time out at Oulton Park, with Butler being handed a penalty for an incident. So there's history between these two, although it's only one race. I wonder if they're going to exchange places, or indeed exchange a nice battle, but cleanly, as is crucial to these races. Find yourself caught in an incident and it's time drifting away. Luke Rogers in behind, though, looks very quick in that 2-1-1 Ginetta, as we cut back to his teammate here, Aidan Bro, 5th place finisher last time out, under pressure from Will Dendy and Daniel Andrews behind. Actually, it looks like Andrews has dropped down the order slightly as Dendy goes wide there in the Mob 7 Zansho McLaren. He's coming under challenge from Dendy. He's forced to then fall back in behind. So actually it looks like Dendy's lost a couple of positions compared to the timing screen. Yeah, it's just adjusted there as they cross the line. Aidan Bro, though, he's one of these really quick drivers, isn't he, Steve? But he seems to be able to pull out very consistent performances, running in 7th at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, with GT4s, it's all about staying out of trouble and trying to put those lap times in and just be consistent. And Aidan is a very quick driver. He manages to stay out of trouble most of the time, and he's a consistent top 10 finisher, which is what can build championships. It can that can give you the title sometimes. But it has to be said, we're in a field of champions. As any number of these drivers, I believe, are capable of taking the championship, and that is why Simsport Racing's GT4 championship has never had a defending. No champion has been successful in his defence. It's been a new champion every season so far. But interestingly, Matt Richards at the moment is the man on a charge. He's fastest lap so far. He's the man that is in the 34s, and I think he's the only man to actually get into the 34s so far. So Matt Richards, one to watch at the moment. He's currently, I think, behind Jenson Button, so he'll be trying to close that gap down.
Yeah, Button, who seemed like he's really stuck actually behind Weiss in the 271 BMW, unable to make a move. And this is your pole sitter, Ollie Gill. Looks like he's recovering now. He seems to have found his pace in behind Stin Paspon. And this battle for 15th place, if you're new to Simsport Racing's GT4 Championship, it will be reverse pole for the next round at Monza. So although it seems like a battle outside the top 10, it's very much important, as here is our Season 1 champion, Aaron Walker, in the Simsport KTM Crossbow, returning to the series, unable to race last time at Oulton Park. He looks like he's getting his elbows out and getting stuck in indeed, looking for a way past Gav Utley, one of our 3 Alpines on the circuit. But as we come towards the halfway mark, so 15 minutes gone, less than half an hour to go, Aaron Martin Pilkington leads the way. In behind, it's Wagner Marquez in the 93 pole Simsport BMW, with Johannes Weiss in 3rd. Still managing to hold off Jenson Button in 4th position, with a closing Matt Richards rounding out the top 5, with Luka Berk 6th, ahead of Aidan Bro, Benjamin Tusting Will Dendy, and then Daniel Andrews rounding out your top 10. But Walker's really getting feisty here, Steve, behind Utley in front.
Yeah, absolutely. These are, I would say, they're pretty equally matched cars. You know, the Alpine and the KTM. They're very lightweight, very nimble, including even the Ginetta that's behind them. I think they're probably, you know, obviously they're all GT4 class cars, but I think these three, the Ginetta, the Alpine, and then the KTM, I think they're probably the closest cars on the grid. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, all three of those cars don't carry any ballast, as we have implemented a ballast system here in the GT4 Championship. The Cayman is the heaviest, the hardest hit with 50 kilos. Luka Berk on screen at the moment was really saying that he struggled with an extra 10 kilos. He noticed the difference between the final round at Snetterton in Season 4 as Will Dendy sends one sailing up the inside of Andrews, but unable to get the job done. It looks like actually Andrews fought his way past, or at least across the line. Dendy was leading by less than half a tenth of a second, but this Cayman is the one that's hit hardest, and 50 kilos really shows. As on the timing screen on the left hand side, Benjamin Tusting is flying down the order. He's now 13th, so he's dropped outside of the top 10. An instant must have befallen the number 64 McLaren. Here he is on your screen now, 13th, in behind teammate Chris Shaw. So these guys are going to have to sort out positions 12th, 13th and 14th. Al Buncombe doing a fantastic job at recovering in one of these Caymans that's loaded rather heavily, with the McLaren, I believe, has been handed 10 kilos, so significantly less. And that does make a difference, Steve, across a race, even though it's only 45 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a difference in lots of areas. Obviously, tyre wear, handling, as I was saying earlier. Wow, look at that from Buncombe. That absolutely fantastic. Carried so much speed through the chicane there and got the job done on the exit. And he's now down onto the inside and he's going to take two of them. That's two positions for Albert. He's just a little overcooked it and he's lost two positions on the exit. So, Al Buncombe nearly gained everything, but instead he's back to square one by the looks of it. But good driving from Al there, really. I mean, the Cayman is a pretty quick car, as we just now looking at Luka Berk coming under some significant pressure. And I think the comments from Luka about noticing the 10 kilos of ballast, that's the difference between Luka Berk driving and maybe me driving, because I don't extract that. Well, I don't, on a serious note, I don't extract maybe that last 10 or 20% of potential out of a car, but these drivers are extracting every ounce of potential, so they notice the slightest thing that's wrong with the car, the little bit of balance. Sometimes they'll notice the damage, whatever, and it is just down to the driver's ability. And then Luka Berk is a very, very quick driver, so I'm not surprised really that he does notice that 10 kilos of ballast.
Well, you said this series was unpredictable, and I managed to finish second in it in Season 2. So I think you and me both then put into the same pot of driver caliber then, Steve.
Yeah, well, as Simsport, members, we're really, really pleased. I think you'll agree that the caliber of driver that's now in this league has really pushed the boundaries. And I mean, once upon a time, I would have said I was expecting myself to finish in the top 6 all the time, as I proved when I just jumped into the GT4s for a race. I think it was Season 2 and finished 4th, but now I think I'd struggle to get in the top 20. It's insane, as we're looking at O'Brien trying to make a move there, and he just causing an incident there, and that's Andrews that's got turned and come off worse from that. But O'Brien made contact and looked like he managed to push O'Brien round, but to be fair to O'Brien, he was under intense pressure from behind as well, so I think the stewards might have a look at that one.
Yes, of course, the result this evening, all provisional, barring any changes made by the stewards. Drivers get a chance to protest the events, and that's all part of the racing here at Simsport Racing. It's fair, it's sportsmanlike, and we do, as much as we like to have fun out there on the track, it's all about racing hard and fair. And speaking of racing hard and fair, Jenson Button still stuck behind Marquez. He can't get through, and Richards has overturned a 2.5 second deficit to now be challenging the 2009 Formula 1 World Champion as they head up through McLean's. The Alpine unable to find a way past the BMW in front, and that's allowed another ballast-free car behind, being the Ginetta, to close right up. The race winner at Oulton Park looking for a way past Jenson Button as they head down towards the S's. Button's got to elect. Does he look for a move on the BMW, or does he defend from Richards? And he chooses to take the racing line. Richards unable to look to the inside. The Ginetta has, it's been known to be one of these cars that struggles in a straight line, but Button getting a fantastic run through that chicane, and on the run down to the old hairpin, Can he get it stopped and do what his teammate Al Buncombe couldn't? And he does seem to have done that. It's opened the door as well behind for Richards to make a move. Marquez tried to close the door and retake the racing line, but he's going to have to defend to the inside as they run into Goddard side by side round the final corner to round out lap 14 as they head towards the line. And this is really exactly what Martin Pilkington needs. He's now got the best part of 6 seconds of the lead of the race to a margin to Jenson Button that I'm sure we'll see be attacked by the Alpine driver shortly, and behind Luka Berk looking like he wants to get involved. But that gap 6 seconds, Steve, with 22 and a quarter minutes to go, it might look like a bit of a sizable lead, but if we've seen anything from Button in his season in GT4s, any gap is something that he wants to close down, and it's a challenge he'll surely be enjoying.
Yeah, absolutely, and we have seen Matt Richards lapping in the 34s as well, so he's followed Button through there, so he's going to be keeping Jenson Button honest. So I think whether that gap comes down or not is going to now depend on whether Button and Richards work together, or whether Richards just attacks Button and maybe holds him up a little bit. But as we've seen, Button wasn't too desperate to defend. He was confident in his own speed, and he's got a little bit of a gap now on Richards, but I think Richards will have the pace to close that gap up. So it'll be interesting. Pilkington, he's lapping in the low 55s, the low 35s, 55s, he'd be parked in the pits, I think. He's lapping in the low 35s and doing a sterling job out there at the front. He has got that bit of a cushion, but he's got 21 minutes left to defend it. As we've just seen, that looked like Marquez making up another position there. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one for Aaron. I think he's going to have to try and disregard that gap behind him, not look at it too much, and just concentrate on putting some good laps in. I don't think he can take his foot off the gas though and really manage the time. I think he's going to have to push hard.
Martin Pilkington then will be pushing hard at the top of the standings. I'm really hoping that these 4 drivers behind get involved with each other as they are doing so at the moment, as we saw Marquez and Weiss going side by side. But here's Angus Martin in the HF Impala 863 Aston Martin, the DNF last time out Oulton Park, half the tally of 0 for the HF Impala team, which I'll try not to bring up too many times because I'll get a word from these guys after the race. But he'll be doing his best and happy with that performance so far, but looking to move forward. Tusting now, and he's behind Regan Mitchell, a gap of less than 4/10. He is one of these AM drivers, so that, as you can see on the left hand side of your screen, the timing tower, some numbers next to the drivers are in white and some have a red background. The red are part of the AM category. Mark Raddenbury was champion last time, as we see Cameron Fife, number 13 Aston Martin. One of these AM drivers coming into contact there with Jamie Peters-Ennis in the 77 McLaren, and it looks like they're going to be unable to settle the dispute heading down through the Craner curves. And it's Peters-Ennis on the inside, Fife hanging it out around the outside. If he can keep that position on the run-in to the old hairpin and get the job done, it will be moved up indeed.
That's a
very
good move.
Clean,
very good move, very robust defence at the top of the hill there through Redgate, but managed to put it together through the old hairpin, and it's all kicking off further forward. Sorry, this is Tusting in 11th, and we've got Al Buncombe, we've got Regan Mitchell there in the Maserati. We've got a whole gaggle of cars there, all fighting for position at the moment, and it's looking a little bit feisty as Buncombe's trying to make his way through, and Tusting's trying to push as well. We're 2 by 2 over the start line now, and ready to start another lap, and battling hard even with 19 minutes left on the clock.
It looked like that Marquez and Weiss, who were battling for 4th and 5th or 5th and 6th at the start of that lap, must have had a coming together, because now they're heading up this train here in 8th and 9th. So it looks like they maybe had an exchange of paint, or indeed a slight coming together at some point, and that's really closed up this train of cars that are fighting really for next time out. It's 2nd, 3rd row positions. And speaking of which, Michael Haffenden has got himself up to 15th, which is the golden ticket to a pole position next time out at Monza. So he'll be hoping that he can either move forward if he can close that gap, as we see Tusting looking to the outside of Al Buncombe, as he seems to have got the move done. Oh no, indeed, Buncombe's managed to fight back and is indeed looking at getting a pass done on Mitchell. So it's all change here. These guys can't decide who's going to lead and who's going to follow as they run down to the S's. Mitchell electing to take the inside line, but Tusting manages to get the job done around the outside. and they've all swapped positions again. But Dave Hedges here challenging Haffenden for this final 15th spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Action wherever you look at the moment, isn't it? It's battling hard, racing hard, and having good fun. And the problem is, like as Mitchell found there, as soon as you get pushed off the racing line, forced to defend, or someone forces the way up the inside, it's very hard to close that door. And quite often they're finding two cars going through instead of just one. As we're looking at Walker on Butler now, he's really looking like he's putting pressure on him and looking to get a move done on that Ginetta as soon as possible. Walker really pushing hard, and we know how quick Aaron Walker can be as well. As we're looking at Adam Azalovic now as well in the BMW, defending hard now from Martin and Andrews, as Martin looks to go around the outside, and Azalovic indeed has gone very deep, hit the grass, and actually spun on the exit of the final turn there, so that's cost him at least a couple of places, maybe more, by the time he gets recovered and back onto the track. But this battle further forward, 11th Tusting, Buncombe and Co, seems to have settled down a little bit. When I say settled down a little bit, we've got a few tenths between them, but one gap that hasn't settled down is the Fife and Ennis battle, as Ennis bangs it up the inside again at Redgate, and he's just forced Fife wide. I'm not sure if there was contact there, but Fife's ended up on the grass, I believe. Was that Fife on the grass?
Yeah, it was Fife on the grass, and he's lucky to avoid Isalovic, who I think was off as well in the gravel, as through all the dust and debris there was another car. So Fife living to fight another day. Fingers crossed he can get back on track and continue a strong race for him so far. But this battle here, Dave Hedges in the Simsport Solutions Ginetta and the Aston Martin Vantage number 861 of Michael Haffenden, and this is exactly what we like to see in GT4 racing, isn't it, Steve? And Aston Martin, a seemingly heavy car in comparison to the Ginetta, light skippy little thing, going wheel to wheel and exchanging lap times and indeed the position, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Aston Martin, it's a bit of a powerhouse compared to the Ginetta. The Ginetta seems to be underpowered compared to most cars on the grid, but it is absolutely amazing fun to drive. It is astonishingly good on the brakes. I mean, it turns in on a sixpence, it stops on a sixpence. You know, it is really, it's a very agile car. Apologies to anyone who's too young to know what a sixpence is, but anyway. But yeah, they are fantastic cars, and it's looking like Hedges is potentially, I think he's going to come under pressure from Walker, although it's a 2.5 second gap back to Walker if he doesn't get past Haffenden very quickly. I think that'll be in Hedges' mind at the moment to keep moving forward, because he will be aware of Walker behind him.
Hedges obviously looking to fight for that 15th place, which will be reverse grid pole position next time out at Monza in a week's time. And so all important to bag that position, not just for points, but you can see that sometimes it doesn't make a difference to your race, because Ollie Geel, who started pole, is now behind these Ginettas. He's in a train of 5, but he's 3.5 seconds off the back. That was Luke Rogers and Rene Butler in 20th position. And what a camera shot this is on board Johannes Weiss in the Butler Powell Motorsport BMW, brought to you by Mike Yao. Fantastic job, Mike, as always, our broadcast director, really allowing us to see how the cars close up and extend the gaps between them as they round the final corner at Goddard's and then stretch out onto the start-finish straight and down towards Redgate, and Alex Buncombe closing in behind. Weiss, though, in a position where he's leading the AM runners at the moment. He's got a car between himself and Benjamin Tusting, and we know how fast the McLaren number 64 driver is. I'm pretty sure he'll be hoping to close up that gap. But speaking of closing up gaps, Steve, Jenson Button hasn't made a significant dent into the lead that Aaron Martin Pilkington holds at the top of the field. It's 5.2 seconds as we see Marquez running wide. That's allowed Weiss to close back up, and Buncombe tucking in behind. He's going to be looking for a way through as well. They're nearly 3 wide heading up the hill towards McLean's, and indeed it looks like Buncombe's managed to wrestle himself up the inside of the BMW as they make slight contact on the run up the hill into Coppice, and they managed to sort out the position there, but it wasn't for the fact of a little bit of exchange of contact between the Porsche Cayman and the BMW. But that gap at the front, Steve, 5.2 seconds, is that going to be enough for Martin Pilkington with 13 minutes to spare?
Based on the lap times, yes it is, because Button's only lapping maybe a tenth quicker per lap than Pilkington, so he's definitely not got, if he's going to carry on at that rate of knots, he's definitely not got enough time to close the gap. What has surprised me is Richards in third place, because he's not closed that gap up to Button. In fact, it's potentially got a little bit bigger, and he's lapping in the mid 36s, so I'm not sure if he's had an issue or a run wide, or he's made contact and picked up some damage somewhere, but he's Richards is the one that surprised me. I thought he might have the pace to keep Jenson Button honest, at least, if not get past him. But one of the drivers of this race for me so far this evening, I think, is Will Dendy. I mean, there's lots of guys made up a lot of positions, but Will Dendy up to 7th position now and putting pressure on Aidan Bro. I think this is a fantastic drive from Will.
Will Dendy started 21st on the grid, so up to 7th place. With less than a third of the race remaining. A really fantastic performance. He looks to have kept the nose of this number 28 Zansho Simsport Cayman pretty clean. There's not many scuffs on it, and you can't say that for a number of the other cars on the grid, sometimes coming to blows. But here we're seeing Alex Buncombe stuck in behind Marquez running wide up the hill there, and that's going to allow Buncombe easy pickings as the Cayman attempts to drag past the BMW on the run down towards the S's. We know how quick that Beamer is in a straight line. It looks like the Cayman is able to hold on despite 50 kilograms of ballast added on board. So with Buncombe now up to 8th, Dendy in front up to 7th, these guys have really recovered well. Buncombe started down in 30th, so these are two drivers that have fought their way up through the order, and we see this drone cam focusing on Will Dendy and Aidan Bro heading through Goddard's. Mike Yao doing a fantastic job to pilot this whilst keeping it tabs on the battles going all the way up and down the field as they fly past the pit lane and into Redgate. And a seemingly nonchalant first corner, Steve, is actually one of the trickiest parts on the track, as we see Buncombe trying to he's coming under fire from Vice, and that might open the door to Dendy and to Sting as well, getting up the inside there of Buncombe. So a corner that on a track map doesn't look fairly eventful often seems to be the hot spot here at Donington Park.
Yeah, absolutely. First corner, Redgate, is very, very important, and it's very difficult to get right as well, because you can end up running wide and losing time just as easily as you can get it right and gain time. And it's obviously then you've got the run down the Carrera curves and into the old hairpin. That Carrera curves are absolutely flat out, so you do need to get that corner right. But we're looking at Aidan Bro, looking back at Will Dendy now, and this is one of my favourite shots when you're looking back at somebody like this, and they're looking to try and make a move. As you said earlier in the broadcast, Tim, you really get an appreciation for the closing speed under the brakes, and look at the speed. Will Dendy's carried more speed, and he's going to shove it up the inside now, and hopefully he's going to try and get a move done at the hairpin and keep a tight line, get it turned in, and not allow Aidan Bro the switch back. And I think he's going to run him out wide, typical Will Dendy style there. I think he'll get that job done.
It looks like Buncombe and Vice have come together through the old hairpin, so Buncombe late on the brakes again, making contact into the side of the BMW, and these two Beamers clashing doors, and contact between Vice and Marquez sends the 93 pole Simsport car off into the barriers at Goddard's. That was a little bit of door banging between the two, and there's always going to be tears on the run into Goddard's. A tricky left-hander hairpin. Single file through there at the best of times, as we saw a car spinning off towards the inside. Not too sure who that was, but I'm sure we'll be able to pick up shortly. I wonder if that was Michael O'Brien of all people. I wouldn't like to assume that it was him. No, it was a Jeanette, so it wasn't Michael O'Brien sending one through the grass. Would expect better from the British GT driver, of course. But Aidan Bro here still trying to fight back really at Dendy, and sometimes you can do that in these GT4s, can't you, Steve? As soon as someone gets past, that there is levels in their performances that allow you to really retake a position if you find yourself being passed.
Yeah, absolutely. The GT4 class, the way they are, I suppose, same as GT3s, if someone just rejoins there, and that was really a little bit sketchy. But yeah, the cars all certainly have different strengths, different weaknesses at different parts of the track. So, you know, where we see, we were talking earlier about the BMW stretching its legs down the straight, the Porsche, even though it's got that ballast, will be slightly better than the BMW in other areas. The Ginetta we've already talked about is amazing on the brakes and turning. It can brake so late and still get the car turned in. So, you know, it's not the quickest thing in a straight line. It comes under attack a lot down the straights, although we're seeing this is Hedges and Butler still going hammer and tongue at it, realistically, but Walker has Hedges and Rogers going hammer and tongue, is it? But Walker's got past these guys. He's got up into that 16th, and he's the man that's now behind Haffenden.
So we're seeing a replay here of this coming together between Johannes Weiss and Wagner Marquez there, and the Pulse Simsport car just really sent spearing off to the right hand side, and there's no chance to save something like that with the barriers so close at a circuit like Donington Park. And actually we're seeing that Weiss has been handed a drive-through penalty and he's in pit lane, so we'll see that 271 Butler Powell Motorsport car. There he is, returning to the track at the bottom of your screen. He'll be looking to recover what has already been a difficult race. Hedges wide and Hedges off at Redgate. It looked like he just got on the grass on the way in, and the door being closed slightly by Butler there, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it doesn't matter how late you can brake in these cars. If you've got wheels on the grass, that doesn't help braking efficiency, and it very much doesn't help the turning ability, as Hedges found out there, and he went straight off onto the gravel track, but he didn't hit anything, so he's back on. He's obviously going to have lost a few places.
Still off going through the grass again, so Dave Hedges electing to use a rallycross layout, or be inventing a rallycross layout here at Donington Park, as we see Francisco Lemin, the Ventura Motorsports number 3 Ginetta, looking for a way past our Season 4 AM Class champion Mark Raddenbury in the 750 positive perception Ginetta in front. It looks like Andrews there pulling off onto the right hand side, a driver who tumbled back down the order. And here we go on board. This is with Johannes Weiss. So Buncombe barges his way through, and we're going to see the steering wheel inputs, and there's a little bit of a tap, and he drifts over to the right again, and then a third contact between the two BMWs is really the final blow. But interestingly from that, Steve, we could see that Weiss was attempting to move back over to the right hand side, but there was no deliberate intention to make contact there. If there was so, surely we would have seen a very sharp input into the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult to say, difficult to judge these things so quickly, and you know, the stewards, if it's a reported incident, will take a lot more time to come to a conclusion and view it from many different camera angles. So I think we'll leave that one there and let them have a look at it if one of the drivers reports it. But yeah, interesting. Aidan Bro still hanging on to the back of Dendy. Dendy's got himself a little bit of a cushion, if you can call 2/10 a cushion, but it could be enough just to stay in front of Aidan. He's not going to come in under attack, I don't think, this time round through the chicane as they go through now. Dendy's shown that he's pretty quick through there. He's, again, look at that, he's carried a lot more speed and he's extended that gap out there. I think where the gap closes down now, we'll see it just narrow down a little bit into the braking zone for the Melbourne hairpin here, and the Ginetta just looking to close up a little bit. But we've got another battle here with Walker and Marquez, is it, I think, behind him, that's trying to put Walker under pressure, because Walker's absolutely another good driver of the evening. He's up to 13th place now, so that's an awesome performance from Aaron.
Yeah, he's fought his way past Marquez, and Haffenden has the Season 1 champion. Haffenden still holding on to that reverse grid pole position. On your screen at the moment, Aidan Bro holding on to Will Dendy just about, and with less than 5 minutes to go, 4.5 to be precise, Aaron Martin Pilkington still leads the way, but with a reduced advantage over Jenson Button. The gap's now down to 3.4 seconds, with Matt Richards in the Zansho Simsport Ginetta in third, rounding out the podium with Luka Berk, Michael O'Brien, Will Dendy and Aidan Bro, as we've discussed. Complete your top 7 with Tusting Buncombe and Chris Shaw rounding out the top 10. But here, Mark Raddenbury coming under fire from Gav Utley as the Alpine looks to the outside, but Raddenbury able to hold the position through Redgate very cleanly as well. No slamming of the door or exchanging paint as they fly down the crane of curves. Fantastic shot on the apex. You can see how quick that left-hander really is, as they then fly through the old hairpin, use all the curb on the right and the left, up under where Starkey's Bridge used to be, towards McLean's and Coppice. Tricky right-hander that seems to go on forever, but the Ginetta looking strong through these more technical sections of the track, with Gilles heading up this train. Indeed, looks like Gilles made a slight mistake there, so our pole sitter, reverse grid pole sitter, is now coming under fire from Lem behind into 3, with Mark Randenbury still looking to benefit and climb up the order. It looks like they all close up into the S's there, Steve, but no tears just yet.
No tears just yet, but one man that might be shedding a tear, Cameron Fife, down in 27th, looking like he's picked up a drive-through, but it's looking like Randenbury and co are all going to get crossed up as Utley's up the inside of Randenbury there, and he's got that position off him. But I've just cast my eye to the timing board on Pitwall Live, and Button took over half a second out of Pilkington on that last lap, and the gap is now down to about 2.8 seconds with just 2.5 minutes to go. So he has made a charge, he has made a dent on that lead. They have dropped Richards, who's a further sort of round about 5 or 6 seconds further back from Button. But can Button close up 2.5 seconds in a couple of laps? I don't think he can he, at this point? I think Pilkington's done enough. As we just seen, was that Marquez got a tap from maybe Rogers, so was it Weiss that gave him a tap? Sorry, yeah, and he's just managed to spin him around.
The two BMWs that seem to have exchanged blows in the entirety of this race coming together once again, and Marquez, the driver, really missing out and really suffering from that incident there. Randenbury 21st at the moment, started 27th, so a strong showing from our reigning AM class champion. But the gap at the front, Steve, as you mentioned, as they head on to lap 28, we see that Aaron Martin Pilkington rounding the final few corners. He still is unable to really answer the question that Jenson Button is posing at the moment, so position yet to be sorted, as here Gilles looking to the inside of his teammate Randenbury through the S's, and Randenbury able to hold on, but he's going to be slightly compromised on the exit, and Gilles had to move slightly out of lane as well to stop a charging Daniel Andrews, who's really trying to recover positions after being involved in a couple of incidents in the opening 10 or 15 minutes, looking for a cutback through the Melbourne hairpin and unable to get the job done that time. But behind is Dave Hedges, who's also looking for a way back into things, but with less than a minute, really running out of time, as both the Dunn Motorsport CST cars getting slightly slippy on the exit of Goddard's, and that's going to compromise them down the start-finish straight. But fortunately, they're all in the same type of GT4 car, so it all seems to balance out as they head into Redgate. But Gilles runs a tighter line there to really try and show one up the inside of Mark Randenbury. Look to get slightly squirrely on the exit of the first corner at Redgate. As they head down the crane of curves, they look to have got everything sorted out with 20 seconds to go then on the clock. And with your leader in picture there, that's Aaron Martin Pilkington in the 626 Tron Racing BMW.
Wow.
And that gap has really closed up.
I was going to say, Button's just put all the race fastest lap of the racing on that last lap of 1:34.8. So he took out 7/10 out of that gap on that last lap. So he's really pushed hard. But is it too little, too late sort of thing? As Pilkington, he's still got a bit of space. He just needs to bring it home. I think unless he makes a mistake, Button's got too much to do on this last lap. That gap is far too big. He's pretty safe. Never say never, but I think Pilkington's got to make a mistake now. But that is phenomenal from Jenson there. The penultimate lap there just did a 1:34.8 compared to Pilkington's 1:35.5, so a big difference on the lap times. And interestingly, I mean, more or less these two guys, well, Jenson obviously the fastest man on the track, just Richards though with a 35.9 on the last lap. So Richards is the man, like I said earlier, he's the one that surprised me that he's dropped off the pace so much of the guys ahead. I thought he would have been challenging for this, certainly for second, if not the race win tonight.
So as they round the Melbourne hairpin for the final time, the traffic in front, which I believe is Richard Pixley, is not going to be getting involved in this action as they head up to Goddard's, the final corner. Aaron Martin Pilkington, all he needs to do is hit his marks, and Jenson Button won't be able to find a way through. Traffic parked off to the right-hand side But as they cross the line after 45 minutes of thrilling action here at Donington Park, Aaron Martin Pilkington for Tron Racing takes a victory 5/10 at the line ahead of Jenson and Button in the 22 Alpine. Then Matt Richards recovers well to third place ahead of Luka Berk. Michael O'Brien rounds out the top 5, our race winner for the first round at Oulton Park. Then it's Will Dendy. Aidan Bro crosses the line in 7th with Benjamin Tusting and Chris Shaw 8th and 9th. Regan Mitchell, a fantastic performance from the Squadra Volante driver in the Maserati, looks to be set for 10th position. Then Aaron Walker following behind in the number 99 KTM Crossbow, our season 1 champion, with Stin Paspont as well in the second of the 2 Squadra Volante Maseratis. Alex Buncombe, a resilient fight up to 13th position ahead of Michael Haffenden here, who's looking very joyous with that 14th, which will be a front row start next time out at Monza. Luke Rogers in 15th. He'll be the man bagging pole position unless there's any changes in stewards' inquiries after the race. Then it's Johannes Weiss, Rene Butler 17th ahead of Fabio Lem in the 3 Ginetta. Gav Utley in the Alpine 19th, with Ollie Gill, our pole sitter, rounding out the top 20, but a strong showing indeed to keep himself fighting through the order. Daniel Andrews 21st. Angus Martin in 22nd, with Marquez 23rd. Obviously the pole Simsport driver coming to blows a number of times with other drivers on track, but typically, Steve, lights to flag, fun festive GT4 action there this evening. Are there any performances that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, as I said in the race, I think that a couple of the guys that came through from right at the back of the grid, Will Dendy, I mean, fantastic drive from him. I think he was about 6th or 7th in the end. 6th for Dendy, great drive from him. Aaron Walker as well. I mean, I'm not quite sure where he started, but I know it was well down the order because he didn't race last week. So he made up some good ground there and got a great result to finish 11th. So well inside that top 15 to take advantage of the reverse grid next week. I mean, Walker up on the front couple of rows of the grid, that's going to be dangerous for everybody else, I think.
Well, as we head to Monza, the track where the Season 1 champion did win in that KTM Crossbow, so it's clearly a circuit that he enjoys in that car. But really, our race winner tonight, Aaron Martin Pilkington, a very measured drive. He seemed to get the lead early on, and although the pressure was applied from Button in those final 20 minutes, indeed, really, the final 5 minutes when Button seemed to be closing, the BMW driver didn't succumb to that pressure. He kept his head screwed on, kept his eyes forward, and was able to cross the line and take victory.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that's changed in Aaron Pilkington's driving style over the sort of last couple of seasons, and certainly this season. The end of last season, the beginning of this season, he's carried it forward. Is that he's showing a more measured sort of a driving style. He's doing what he has to do. He is trying to stay out of trouble. He's not overreacting to events on the track, and he's just trying to keep his head down. And that, I mean, he was the man on the charge in the opening laps there. He got the positions early on. He made the decisive moves, and that, you know, he didn't get caught up in battles, did he? When he overtook, and he moved forward from the overtake. Didn't give you a chance to come back at him, and I think that was the big difference. He really, he took it. He got a gap. He had a gap. I think got another lap, and I think he'd have been hard pushed to keep Jenson behind him. But he did enough. The timer ran out, and he crossed the finish line in first place. So fantastic drive from Aaron this evening.
Before we speak to the drivers who have dropped in to the interview waiting room, really, it was interesting to see how the drivers we'd consider championship challengers already after race 1, getting those move done early, Steve. They made positions despite being further back down the grid, and were really in that top 7 positions quite early on, and that's crucial, isn't it? Getting a clean start, getting past some of the drivers who you beat last time out, and really starting to set about creating a great result.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I was saying. With regards to Pilkington, that's what he did. He was decisive and he made the move. And although he didn't have the lap times on the likes of Button and maybe Richards at the beginning, and certainly didn't have the better lap times than Button at the end, if he'd have got caught up in fights at the beginning and got held up a little bit, then he would have been defending a lot sooner in that race from Button, and I'm not too sure he would have hung on to it. So I think, definitely, made some great moves. All the guys made some great moves and got forward and defended well, did what they had to do and brought it home. And I think, Tim, we have got the podium finishers in the interview room now for a chat.
So I'm here in the interview room following a fantastic second round here at Donington Park, and I'll speak to our race winner, the driver of the 626 Tron Racing BMW, Aaron Martin Pilkington. A cracking drive from yourself. It looked like you managed to get ahead of the order nice and early on, but Button was closing towards the end.
And that I definitely felt it, that's for sure. But I knew I had to do it at the beginning. Like, I started 5th off the grid. I got really lucky. I think I was up to 2nd by first couple of corners, and then I really had to start pushing, but I pushed too much, lost a lot of tyre pressure, and Jenson was just absolutely rapid.
So how was the BMW here compared to Oulton Park? We saw you climb up the order in the opening round of the season, but here at Donington, it's a different kind of circuit, different challenges. How did you find the M4 this evening?
I think that Donington was a little bit better than Oulton Park, just because there's a bit more breathing space, there's a few more straights that you can just kind of like configure yourself for these big braking zones, because the BMW doesn't like braking. So room to breathe, but it will be definitely better at Monza next week. But
I was going to add plenty of straights next time out, but you'll be starting 15th. Do you think you're going to be able to fight through the order?
Doesn't matter. I've won. I'm done now. I'll quit. I'm joking. No, 15th place was good. 15th place will be fine. But I don't care. Sorry.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Aaron, and congratulations on your result this evening. And a driver that's come so close to winning on a few occasions now, but unable to take that checkered flag first here in GT4s. Jenson Button, how was your race this evening? It looked like you were enjoying your time in the Alpine.
Yeah, it was good fun, really good fun. It's so tricky getting past. I mean, the Alpine's really good, but it's so tricky overtaking those Beamers, especially if they cover the inside on braking. You just can't get past them because they turn the car, and then as soon as they get on the power, they're gone. So really tricky. You had to like dive bomb them to make a move, but got through the traffic and just couldn't catch at the end, Aaron. But he did a great job of not making mistakes. Really, when you're under pressure on this game, it's really easy to make those mistakes.
And with the reverse grid, like you say, you're having to make moves, and you're really having to make those moves in the Alpine. What's your strategy going into the start of the race, especially off the back of a good result that will see you down the order? Do you have to get the job done quickly, or can you spread the gains out over the 45 minutes?
The problem is, if you don't make a move quickly on people, they get used to where you're quick, and then they also can back it up in those corners and not make mistakes. This is very difficult to overtake on here unless someone makes a mistake in front, so it's all about pushing them into a mistake. So yeah, it's tricky, but that was a lot of fun, and I did not think the Alpine would be quick around here, but it was blindingly quick. It was just making the moves was a bit trickier. And
looking forward to Monza next week, a circuit that unfortunately might not lean to the strengths of the Alpine. What's your strategy there then?
15th. No, the good thing is that there's so many Ginettas racing, which is great because it means that they hit the limiter, and hopefully I'll have a couple more kilometres more than them. But if it was all Beamers and Maccas, it would be, we wouldn't have any opportunity. But it should still be a fun race. People are going to crash. People are going to get excited. All these Beamers are going to go, wee! I'm going to fight for the win and make moves that they shouldn't. So it should be great. I'm looking forward to a bit of action.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Jenson. Congratulations on your result this evening.
Thank you. And one other thing, I think Aaron did a great job, and the competition, all those Zansho boys that I drive with all the time are unbelievably quick. Matt Richards, Luka Berk, those two especially in this series have been super fast. So you're racing against some of the best in the world, mate. So congrats.
Oh, big thanks. Massive respect, dude. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, it's brilliant to see some big names obviously racing in this series, but they don't have it all their own way. And Matt Richards, a fantastic result through to third, but unable to really find that pace to catch the top two.
Yeah, a little bit of a difficult one. I was struggling with the consistency of the car through all the practice that I'd done. Once I got through and was following Jenson for a little bit, I just couldn't hang with him. Started to get a few pressure issues on the left-hand side, and thought, do you know what? I've got this far, and just try and control where I was.
And we spoke to you obviously last time out at Oulton Park, where you won the race. So 2 podiums back to back is something slightly unheard of in the GT4 Championship, with it being so close. But do you feel like you're getting used to the Ginetta as a unique GT4 car? Last time out, you mentioned you struggled with the pressures and indeed the nature of the curbs at Oulton Park. But Donington Park, a very different circuit, a lot of flat curbs. Was there a different challenge this evening?
A little bit. The main issue that I was struggling with at this track was some traction issues. Some in the same places as a couple of the other guys that I was testing with, but generally just off the corners I just couldn't get the traction that the other guys could. So I tried to build the setup around the fact of making it quick enough through the corners that I could keep the momentum and try and keep them off the corners. Luckily it seemed to work out coming from 15th. But yeah, it was a different challenge, and Monza's going to be, as Jenson has mentioned, quite a difficult one. So I think 14th, 15th is going to be the aim there as well.
But obviously, key to your performance tonight was you kept at bay Michael O'Brien and Luka Berk, 2 drivers who are in that championship fight. Is that something you're looking to early on in the season, or is that something that starts to factor in when you're looking at the championship standings in the penultimate and final rounds?
Oh, 100%. And knowing that Michael is in the McLaren for Monza as well, I know from Oulton Park it's really strong in a straight line. So my focus really is on scoring well in all the other rounds, just so that I can try and make up that points difference a little bit. There was a bit of a melee at the start of the race, which I need to check over just to make sure that anything that happened with Michael wasn't my fault. But other than that, yeah, just trying to keep the point scores consistent and go from there.
Well, brilliant. Well, thank you very much to the top 3 for joining us in the interview room. Congratulations on your results, and look forward to seeing you next time out at Monza.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Steve, some interesting comments there from the drivers. Some mixed. Richard saying that actually he looked around and saw where he was towards the end of the race and just opted to take that 3rd position. But Jenson Button was giving absolutely everything in his attempts to catch Aaron Martin Pilkington.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was astonishing pace towards the end of the race there. As I said, setting the fastest lap on the penultimate lap, that was really astonishing, and it was one of the only men. I think Matt Richards and Jenson were the only 2 men to get into the 34s tonight. So yeah, great driving, but can't take anything away from Aaron Martin Pilkington's performance this evening. As he said there himself, he put it down to a bit of a lucky break maybe at the beginning, but you make your own luck when you're racing to a degree. You've got to have your car in the position to take advantage of anything else that goes wrong. And he made up the positions very, very quickly at the start. And as we said, repeating myself, but he was decisive on the overtakes. When he overtook somebody, he got in front and he pulled the gap. He didn't hang around. He didn't give him a chance to come back at him. And that's what counts. And as Jenson said again there, Pilkington didn't make a mistake. He didn't miss a braking mark. He managed to get the car stopped, turned in and gone. And I don't think there was much that JB could have done unless there'd have been another couple of laps, and then I think we might have had a bit more of a battle on our hands. Matt Richards being very, very sensible there, took some didn't push to the point of like we saw in I think it was the Ginettas, was it, where he raced and he got a puncture and had to pit for fresh tyres. He obviously saw that tyre pressure loss was going to be an issue, so he thought, back it off, bring it home 3rd, and just avoid those curbs and just give the car a little bit of an easier life to and consolidate some points in 3rd place. So sensible driving from Matt there as well. So good job by everybody tonight, I think.
Well, thank you very much for joining myself in the commentary booth, Steve. It's been a pleasure to have you back. I hope you've enjoyed your time. You certainly had a brilliant race to watch on and commentate over. But next time out, we head to Monza for the third round of the Simsport Racing Season 5 GT4 Championship. If you're still here, if you're still hanging on and you enjoyed those driver interviews and indeed if you enjoyed any of the racing action you've seen this evening, please like and subscribe to the Simsport Racing YouTube channel. I've seen there's been a lot of people in the chat enjoying the action. I hope you've had a good evening, and if you want to get involved, if you want to find yourself out there on the grid with the likes of Jenson, Button and indeed the other stars that have joined this series, then please head to the Discord link in the description below the video and you might see yourself fighting with Jenson Button for a race victory. I've been Tim Fullbrook. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next week as we head to round 3 at Monza. But until then, goodbye.